hello. This is Jordan Chariton, not live on, what's today? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, April 9th. Just got a haircut. You know, I got to tell you, I'm a little insecure about my hair. It's starting to thin, but hey, at least I have it at 32 years young. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. A lot going on in the news, from the corrupt Democratic establishment continuing to mock and fight progressives. There is water problems as usual that's not getting any coverage. There's people like Beto O'Rourke running around saying a whole lot of nothing but being covered by the media as some progressive champion. And of course, Donald Trump is president. So, thank you for watching. And we are also actively working on fundraising for our upcoming trip to Flint, Michigan. Ty, myself, Jen are hitting the road to go to Flint. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little bit later. But we are at, let's see, how much more do we need? We are $886 away from our fundraising goal of $2,550 for this next trip. We'll be going there to cover the 5-year anniversary of the water crisis, which is April 25th, and so we can release our documentary, Flushing Flint, which will be released April 23rd. It'll be a small rental fee or a fee to buy it for non-status quo members. For status quo members, you will get it free and earlier than April 23rd. And I should add, for Flint residents, you'll also get it free and before April 23rd. So, Jen will put the link in there in this super chat. Again, some of you have been forgetting this is a super chat. So if you're feeling super, if you like our reporting, please let us know in the super chat. And we will put in that link for GoFundMe. And, sorry, a lot of homework here. Smash the like button. Smash it into smithereens. The more people that press like on this not live stream, the more people that will see this not live stream. I have reached out to YouTube to make sure and triple confirm that our 90-day ban will be up at the end of May. We were banned by YouTube for 90 days because CNN filed a copyright violation against us. Then we were not allowed to even appeal it because we deleted the video, which is absurd. Yeah, I get an email that we're banned for 90 days because CNN filed a copyright violation. My first instinct was to delete it and then argue it. But no, you got to look 7 pages in to learn. You got to click 7 different things to learn, if you delete it, you lose your right to appeal. So that's YouTube for you. But, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So we're trying to do our best. But you could help us by pressing that like button. It is right under this video, the thumbs up there. You can become a status quo member. We are now 17, count them, 17 members away from 300. I would love to reach that 300 members number before we hit the road back to Flint. We're going to be going back to Flint April 22nd. So you can become a member. Here's the new page that Jen put together for as low as $5 a month or $10 a month or $20 a month. Or if you prefer annually, $179. This is what's helping us grow huge, big time. So, are there 17 souls watching right now that have been on the fence? Are there 17 souls watching that support real independent journalism? Is there 17 souls ready and excited to see Flushing Flint documentary, which exposes the state of Michigan cooking the water lead data in Flint and declaring the water safe based on fudgery, screwy numbers, manipulated numbers? I think there might be 17 people in this chat that have the wherewithal and the will to support real independent journalism. So we'll talk about that a little bit later too. And of course, follow us at Status Quo, follow us at Jordan Chariton. I think we're close to 5,000 Twitter followers on Status Quo, which is pretty awesome considering we haven't tweeted a lot from there. Yeah, we're at, let's see, what are we at? We are at 4,776 Twitter followers. So if you haven't followed Status Coup on the Twitter, let's get going with that too. I'm at Jordan Chariton. Subscribe to our podcast. Right there is the link that is somewhere. If you go and you rate us 5 stars and then leave a review, it helps drive us up on iTunes. And we definitely want to get more people seeing us on iTunes. The podcast is just, our live streams and our interviews that I do made into podcasts. And join our email list. Go to statuscoup.com. Enter your email in the box for it. So, and remember, I'll repeat it many times. Press that like button. It's right under. Do me a favor. Press that like button. Bernie Sanders, running for president, running all over this country. Bernie Sanders is, by the polls that seem to give more information, not down by much over Joe Biden. Joe Biden, I don't know what the holdup is now. It seems like he's just taking his time. Reports in the past couple weeks have said he was having trouble with fundraisers. That might have been why he was waiting to enter the field. Fundraisers were a little lukewarm on supporting Mr. Joe and, shall I call him Joe Touchy Hands Biden. So Bernie Sanders, while running for president, is again doubling down on Medicare for all, his signature proposal. He is going to unveil a new Medicare for all bill as Nancy Pelosi and the corporate Democratic establishment say, let's improve Obamacare. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders plans to introduce his new bill, his new Medicare for all bill, Wednesday morning. So that's tomorrow. A move that will again push healthcare policy to the front burner of the Democratic presidential primary. The new legislation's big-name co-sponsors include 4 of Sanders' fellow 2020 Democratic contenders: Senator Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, and Kirsten Gillibrand. Oh boy. All of whom signed on to an earlier version put out in 2017. But unveiling his proposal, now Sanders is effectively doubling down on his signature policy idea and betting that his calls to eliminate private medical insurers will be a winning one with Democratic voters, even as the party rallies around Obamacare. But the move could light a match to a simmering debate within the Democratic Party, pitting Sanders against other candidates, including some of the Senate bill's co-sponsors, over the best path toward universal coverage. It is a fight Sanders appears to welcome. During the early stages of the 2020 campaign, he has relentlessly attacked private insurers, arguing that their presence is a malign influence on the whole American healthcare system. Warren, Harris, and Booker have all signaled their willingness to consider compromise plans that allow private insurers a role in any new or revamped system. They're up against moderates like Senator Amy Klobuchar, who has said she is not in favor of Medicare for all, and Senator Michael Bennet, who's planning to enter the race soon. Oh boy, another one. Neither of whom are expected to join their more liberal colleagues. Can I just add, why is Congressman Eric Stilwell, who has fomented and pushed this Russiagate nonsense, and now you got Michael Bennet, and you might have former Virginia governor / I have my head so far up the Clintons behind, Terry McAuliffe, trying not to curse because YouTube demonetizes us. Jen, do I get demonetized for saying behind? I hope not. Why are all these people running? I mean, what's his name? Tim from Ohio. Murphy. No, who is the Ohio guy from the Rust Belt that just announced? Ohio Congressman. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, Tim Ryan. I had it. What are all these people running for? I mean, vanity? Their ego? They have no shot. And I don't mean to be like one of these elitists who say, you have no shot, and then they have a meteoric rise. I mean, are they running for vice president? Are they running for labor secretary, dog catcher, to get a CNN deal once they retire? I don't understand. Like, if you have no pathway, sit down. I mean, I could understand why Tulsi Gabbard, for example, is running. She probably knows it's a very, 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 far stretch for her to win the Democratic nomination. But she's trying to get critical issues into the mainstream. she's trying to get on that debate stage, which honestly, as soon as today, she might announce that she has reached those requirements, because 2 or 3 days ago, she was at 63,000 donors, and you need 65,000. So she's on the brink of reaching the amount you need, 65,000 donors, to your campaign to be eligible for the presidential debates, which will be a great thing. I was happy to interview her a couple, now like 2 months ago, and I look forward to hopefully interviewing her again. So what I think is interesting about this, you got Bernie Sanders reintroducing the Medicare for All bill. Not so sure if there's tweaks in the bill. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But already you have the establishment saying, attacking Bernie, even though the people are with him. And I found this interesting. Ezra Klein of the Vox, Vox.com, these elitist wonks who are so smart. They all have wonderful educations. They all live in Washington, D.C. and New York, mostly Washington, D.C. And they get turned on by policy books and think tank reports and all that. But they really have an aversion to talking to actual human breathing people. Ezra Klein says, who cares if Bernie Sanders motivates people? Who cares if the majority want this? It ain't going to get passed. Here's his Twitter thread. You can't do Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan through the budget reconciliation process. So he's saying he'll get 60 votes to pass it. There's absolutely no way that's happening. And that was in response to Bernie Sanders not actually saying he would try to get rid of the filibuster. Bernie Sanders said, quote, Donald Trump supports the ending of the filibuster, so you should be a little bit nervous if Donald Trump supports it. Says his ambitious agenda could get through with the current legislative rules. We'll get back to that. Another surprising quote from Sanders, Ezra Klein says, quote, I don't think you could just simply shove everything through. There's an argument for that, by the way, but that's not where I'm at right now. Majority vote is shoving everything through, Mr. Klein asked. He says, you can't be a policy radical and a Senate institutionalist right now. Either you keep the Senate rules as they are and accept that very little can pass, or you change the Senate rules to permit a more ambitious agenda. You can't have it both ways. If you take Sanders at his word, he's saying he could get the kind of bipartisan support for his agenda that Obama couldn't, which I don't actually think he believes. So what is his actual plan for passing his agenda? And then they go to, one of these Vox pieces on why Medicare for All will never, ever come to pass. I don't want to hurt your IQ or, health by reading that, so I won't bother. So I actually agree with him on one thing, but I disagree with him on most of it. But before that, I want to reference this clip where Bernie was on with Chris Hardball Matthews from 2016. And I think Bernie Sanders, they don't really talk in depth about the filibuster, but I think what he's talking about here is my answer to Ezra Klein and the corporate Democratic establishment, who are pretending that their real concern is, well, this will never get through, when in reality their real concern is they don't want Medicare for all, period. They don't want every breathing human person to have guaranteed health care. So they come out with these policy-oriented, or cost concerns, or this, when the real thing is, it's none of those things. They don't want it because their donors won't allow it. And when I say their donors, that applies to media too. Media companies are owned by plutocrats. Media companies are owned by multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, and they don't want it either. So here we go. 2016. Remember, if you have not pressed the like button on this non-live stream, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right under the video, press that like button. Liking is caring. Caring is sharing. And together, we will defeat the oligarchy. Here's Bernie.
Elected. Let's say you get elected. You take office next January 20th, and you walk up to the Senate, and you meet with the leadership and say, I have a program here. I want to have free, government-funded tuition for public universities. There are things I want done on Social Security to increase benefits. There's things I want done on health care, so it can become like Medicare for life. You've got very strong positions. Right. And Mitch McConnell looks at you the way he looked at President Obama and says, forget about it.
And then you know what I say? I say, hey, Mitch, take a look out the window. There are 1 million young people out there who don't want to be in debt for half their life for the crime of going to college. And if you want to antagonize those million people and lose your job, Mitch, if you don't want to lose your job, you better start listening to what we have to say. That's the point. That's how change takes place.
Well, how do you squeeze a guy like him?
It's not him. Mitch is, I know
All
Mitch
the Republicans.
McConnell.
How do you squeeze
These are smart-
60 senators?
All
You
right.
need 60 senators
All
to
right,
get a court.
let me
You
tell
need
you.
60.
Let me tell you this. Absolutely, positively, 100%. If we rally young people in this country to say, you know what? Germany, Scandinavia, other countries, they have free tuition in public colleges and universities. I have been all over this country, Chris. I've talked to kids 30, 40, 50,000, $100,000 in debt, paying a huge percentage of their income, okay? Young people stand up and say, we are sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
We don't want to go in debt for our whole lives because we got a college education. You know what? We'll win that fight immediately. But the trick is not to appeal to Mitch McConnell.
Right.
It's to say, Mitch, take a look at your emails coming into your
What
office.
evidence do you have that this has worked for you? Have you increased the turnout in these elections?
We've done- look,
have you as a senator been able to get 60 votes of senators for any?
So that's Chris Hardball Matthews. Ooh, excuse me. That's Chris Hardball Matthews, who, loves himself corporate Democrats, loves himself the establishment, loves himself all things faux progressive. So what I think Bernie, let's take what Ezra Klein said and then think about what Chris Matthews said. Let's imagine for a second, for you younger people watching, for older people watching, for people internationally watching, all of you, let's just imagine for a second. Let's imagine that Bernie Sanders becomes president of this here United Corporations of America. Let it sink in. Okay? Do you think that the Democratic Party in the House and the Senate, do you think that even the Republicans who just lost to, at the time, it will be a 78, 79-year-old socialist from Vermont, do you think they will have a choice whether they can shift radically toward, for the Republicans, it would be radically towards the center, because right now they're not even on the right. They're off the grid to the right. They're not even on the normal, like, whatever the right wing liberal Republican used to be. It doesn't exist anymore. They're all the way like to the right of Till of a Hun. The Democrats, do you think they're going to have the option to stay where they are, which is basically on the right? So where I just said the Republicans are off the grid, the Democrats are where like liberal Republicans used to be. Do you think that either will have the option, if Bernie Sanders has become president, to stay where they are and also stay in office? Because if Bernie Sanders becomes president, that would signify there has been a monumental shift in the electorate. If Bernie Sanders becomes president, don't expect it to be, don't expect him to win by like 500 votes. If he becomes president, it's because there was a huge, huge monumental movement. There was huge voter turnout, particularly among young people. And I'm not signaling out the older viewers, as I always say. I know there's a lot of older viewers and progressives that like Bernie. But if Bernie Sanders is going to win, he's going to have an unprecedented turnout among millennials and young people, especially young people that are black, Latino, indigenous, LGBT, you name it. So if Bernie Sanders becomes president, these people they're not, the truth is, the corporate Democratic establishment and even these Republicans, power comes before ideology. Their purity is staying in power. Their purity is the status. Their purity is the money. So they want to remain in office. It's the same thing with someone like Rupert Murdoch. People who know Rupert Murdoch very well and people who have reported on Murdoch said, if you could convince Rupert Murdoch tomorrow that he would become even richer and Fox News would become even more successful if they shifted it to become like a socialist progressive network, he'd do it in a heartbeat, because he's about money and power and status. So it's the same thing for politicians. There's very few politicians that are actually pure and actually believe what they say. I truly think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Bernie Sanders would rather be in office a shorter amount of time if it means fighting for what counts. So I think Ezra Klein and these people in the clouds that, oh, you'll never get 60 votes for a Medicare for all if Bernie was president, this and that, are basically assuming that it would be the same political structure, the same motivations, the same dynamic, and the same consequences for the Democratic establishment and Republicans, whereas they're just going to do what they're doing now and have the same opposition that they're having now, only double because it's Bernie Sanders as president. I think it's the opposite. If Bernie Sanders is president, they talk about the Obama coalition. Well, if Bernie Sanders becomes president, you better believe that there has been a major demographic and electorate and shift in the electorate. That same shift will be coming figuratively, guns a-blazing, for the midterms. After Bernie Sanders' first midterms as president, governor's races, local races, you name it. So these people are either going to do what Bernie Sanders is talking about and look outside their window and smell the political winds have radically changed and pretend to be progressives now and start voting for things that will help actual people, or they're going to be bounced from office. That's the truth. So I think it's pretty. I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything radically different from someone like Ezra Klein and these naysayers who say, "Oh, it'll never pass. Bernie Sanders, it's a pipe dream," because they're not in tune with the electorate. They're paid not to be in tune with the electorate. They're actually paid not to actually go out and talk to anyone. So that's the truth. But where I disagree with Bernie, I say get rid of the filibuster. Get rid of it. It should not exist, frankly. If it were up to me, we'd have a parliamentary system, because at the end of the day, we are not representing the will of the people right now with this filibuster rule. It is a rule that allows obstruction endlessly. Republicans obviously have used it. I mean, whether I like Obama or not, they stymied most of what he tried to do. And Democrats, some occasionally use it, not as much. But the bottom line is, if the will of the people have voted for President Sanders or even President Donald Trump, that is, yes, through elections, you can try and change people's minds and get them out of office. But until then, the presidents should have a right. Presidents should have a right. And the Congress that is supposed to execute your party's wishes, so if it is Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party should be trying to execute the president's vision and policies. That's how American politics is supposed to work. The other party should not be endlessly allowed to obstruct. And the filibuster, there's been studies on this, has the overuse of it has disproportionately hurt black people and minorities, because a lot of the legislation stopped by use of the filibuster has been it has been implemented by the Republicans to stop legislation that would help black people and minorities and poor people. I still think there should be the ability for senators to stand up as long as they want. If you want to, maybe it wouldn't be called the filibuster, but if you want to go on for 10 hours to delay a vote or whatever to make your point, I think that's a good thing. That's the point of having the floor on the House or the Senate. But I disagree with Bernie. I think the filibuster is not a democratic thing, and I think we should have more of a parliamentary system. It doesn't mean that there can't be debate. It doesn't mean that if it's Bernie Sanders as president, Republicans can't vociferously debate against whatever policy he's trying to do, and vice versa. But there shouldn't be these means that basically just make in essence, what the filibuster does is make the minority party effectively the majority party. It tilts the playing field to allow the minority to have more power and leverage than the majority and the elected president. That's not democratic, period. So, remember, like this live stream. Before I get to my next topic, always some new viewers, so I want to remind you, we are releasing our documentary, Flushing Flint. We are releasing that, We are releasing that April 23rd. That's April 23rd. It will be released through, you could rent it on April 23rd. You could buy it on April 23rd at statuscoup.com/Flint. That's statuscoup.com/Flint. Go check it out right now. For members, Status Coup members, you can become a member as low as $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, or $179 annually. You will get that free, and you will get it before April 23rd. So I'm hoping this will drive you out to pull that trigger on membership. Again, statuscoup.com/join. You will get it free, and you will get it first. With tax season coming up, I hope people get a tax return, and one of your first things you do is join us for the media revolution. Here is the trailer to Flushing Flint.
I don't understand why you can't give us the latest testing data and what it shows for the water in Flint. I would think that the governor of Michigan would have those numbers at the top of his mind right now.
I can't get into full details yet, but I might have uncovered some major capital C level corruption here that might prove the numbers they've been using to declare the water safe here in Flint corrupt. Not true. I'm going around the city checking homes that have been tested for the water.
They just showed up one day and said that they needed to do water testing.
Do you remember if they turned on the water, put the bottle in right away, or did they let it run?
They let it run for a minute.
Turn the water on, let it run for, like I said, like a minute.
Yeah, it was DEQ the first time.
There is no bathing and showering standards.
Turn it on, let it run, and then catch the bottle full.
This right here, you're not gonna take my property for the stinking ass water.
So I was hoping I could ask you, because you were on the list for the State Sentinel. Props to Ty Bayless, who is feverishly trying to finish this documentary so we can release it when we say we're going to release it. Guess we don't have an option now because we've given a release date. He's done great work. That was all him on that trailer. That's the reason you haven't seen him on air lately. He's been trying to finish this documentary. So once again, I'll just tell you, I mean, I really, really hope. Some of you might say, oh, you shouldn't. Why don't you make it free for everybody? The truth is, unfortunately, we're a company. Like, we need to make money and we need to grow. We're a year into this, and we really, really are trying to grow enough of the pot, not only to have more funds to travel and report, but we'd like to hire at least another reporter full-time to go out in the field. As I've said from day one, the vision is not just me or Jen or Ty. It's building a media revolution, and what that's going to look like is multiple reporters all over this country and maybe one day all over this world. And that doesn't exist anywhere else. You don't see reporters, in the trenches covering stories that other people are ignoring, and that's what we want to do. I'm also, eventually, I'm only one person. I can't travel, 24/7. If money fell from the heavens today and we had a huge budget, I would love to travel more and report. But at the same time, if you burn yourself out, you're no good to anyone. So we need a bigger pool of independent, aggressive, and authentic reporters. So we hope, this story is so important. I can't stress it enough. It's so important that you see this documentary. It's so important that you spread the word once you find out the information. Obviously, we're going to be pumping out clips from the documentary once it's released, but we wanted to thank our existing members by making it free for them, as well as giving them early access to the documentary. For non-members, if you're not a member, that's fine. Everybody's got their own financial situation. We'll have it set up on statuscoup.com/Flint for you to rent it or purchase it, once we release it. And I should say, we are also fundraising for this trip back to Flint. Jen, Ty, and myself will be headed back there on the 22nd. April 25th is the 5-year anniversary. Yes, 5-year anniversary of the beginning of the Flint water crisis. And when I'm there, and when we're there, you will see this is a city still very, very much in crisis. And Jen, full transparency, wrote up the list for you of our costs associated with this trip. We've already got $1,664 from several of you, and we got $886 left to go. So Jen will put the link right there in this super chat. Reminder, it's a super chat, and we appreciate any amount: $5, $10, $20. One person left $500. I mean, you guys, first of all, made this story happen. Jen and I were able to break this story that Michigan was basically cooking the numbers and cooking the data because of you, because you funded us and we were there for 3 weeks. And I got news for you. Not a knock specifically on the Young Turks, but I would have never been able to go to Flint for 3 weeks at the Young Turks or anywhere else for that matter, any news outlet, and not do any videos and just knock on doors. They would have never paid for me to do that, because everything in today's news cycle and news business is, instant gratification, instant clicks, all that. But that's what Jen and I did. We did not go live. We basically went dark for 3 weeks because we didn't want people to know what we were doing, because what we're doing is not, we're looking into some powerful agencies and individuals. So it was you who funded us to be there, and we're going to do it again and again and again. The days of us knocking on doors all over this country are not done, because when there's a will, let me tell you something, the corrupt in this country, they're not exactly the most careful in covering up that corruption, because they don't expect anyone to look into it, because they know the media is essentially a bunch of patsies and stenographers. So thank you. Statuscoup.com/join. We are currently, as I record this, 17 members away from 300 members. And that goes with already 323 patrons. So we're over 600. We'll be over 600 in total once we get to that 300 members. If you're not anything right now, we really, really encourage you to become a member through our website. Patreon, if you're a patron, stay that way. But for new people, join through our website. We don't want to be as reliant on a third-party platform. And frankly, I don't like that they are kicking people off. I think that's a slippery slope. Today, it's the right wing they're kicking off people. Tomorrow, it's Jimmy Dore or me. So, with that said, onward. Oh, Nancy. Oh, Nancy. Speaker Pelosi. And this is why I had a big problem, frankly, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She did like a magazine cover. I could be wrong. I think it was Rolling Stone, but it might have been Vogue. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did a magazine cover with Nancy Pelosi. I think Ilhan Omar, but I'm not sure. People correct me. I remember seeing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez next to Nancy Pelosi and two other freshman congressmen recently. And, obviously Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I like her, but I think she was a little quick to endorse Nancy Pelosi for speaker. I'm sure she had people around her telling her, do this, play ball with her, and she might give you some things. But as I said from there, this is naive, because Nancy Pelosi ain't going to give Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the progressive movement anything. And here she's basically mocking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, as she's done several times publicly. Nancy Pelosi didn't get to where she is without learning how to troll with the best of them. And in an interview with USA Today released Monday, the Speaker of the House again turns her gaze to the most infamous freshman House member in recent memory, New York's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Asked about the difficulties of governing a caucus in the House that is being challenged at every turn by AOC and others like her, liberals elected in the past few cycles are deeply skeptical of the party establishment. Pelosi said this: "While there are people who have a large number of Twitter followers, what's more important is that we have large numbers of votes on the floor of the House." Oh, God. Pelosi didn't mention AOC by name, but you'd have to be a real dummy to not understand who she was talking about. Ocasio-Cortez has 3.9 million Twitter followers. By the way, my Twitter's on the rise too. I have 85,600, I think. So if you haven't followed me at Twitter, give me a follow at Jordan Chariton. While you're at it, follow at Jen Elizabeth J. At Jen Elizabeth J. for Jen Dies. She's a recently part of the 10,000 follower club. But if you're not following Jen, I don't know what you're doing either. Follow both of us. And Ty, he'll get mad if I don't mention him too. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Ty is at Tommy, Tommie, _ Tyhefe, Tyhefe. And I'm going to kill him because his description still says editor at the Young Turks TYT Politics. So obviously he's on the ball, having not been there now for going on a year. But I digress. So Nancy Pelosi is, and this is not because she's a woman. I'm saying this because it's true. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most smug, arrogant, out of touch, corrupt frauds in American politics today. And I think what she doesn't get, mocking like, oh, some of us have Twitter followers and some of us have the votes. Well, Twitter followers isn't like, just nothing. The will of the people comes in many forms, Speaker Pelosi. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez not only had the will of the people in her district, and by the way, I would expect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to win re-election and win re-election and win re-election with a insanely majority of the vote. Now that her district is actually having someone that represents them and not Joe Crowley, who shockingly became a corporate lobbyist 5 minutes after losing to her, they're going to come out and support Alexandria Cortez. But when she mocks Ocasio-Cortez having 4 million Twitter followers, well, that is a sign not only of somebody who's just popular, that's a sign of somebody who has a growing will of the people. So when you smugly and arrogantly say, you might have Twitter followers, but I have the votes, what you're really saying is, it don't really matter what the people want. I know how to whip votes for things that my donors will like. And Nancy Pelosi has really never come out with a credible reason why Medicare for all should not be what they are pushing. Because there are reports after reports after reports. Hell, even the Koch brothers said it was a cost-saving plan. And that was a Koch brothers funded thing. So Nancy Pelosi basically just says, well, you might have the Twitter followers, but I have the gavel. Can you think of a more out of touch, misreading the political moment in this country kind of statement than that? And she's clueless. She's utterly clueless. And she thinks that because the Democrats won back the House, that means, oh, that Bernie thing, that was just a fluke. You see, everybody, they just want middle of the road, incremental changes. No. As I've said over and over, neoliberalism did not win the day in the midterms. It was Trump and his increasing unpopularity lost. And I think because you had a record number of women candidates running, many of them who are way more progressive than Speaker Pelosi. But, it's not only that she's mocking people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, she's basically ready to go to war with progressives on the budget. House Democratic leaders may be forced to yank a key budget measure from the floor this week amid mounting problems with the left and center. according to lawmakers and aides. Leaders of the Congressional Progressive Caucus say they are ready to deploy the full weight of their 90-member group to reject the legislation, which they say favors the Pentagon over domestic programs. Meanwhile, members of the moderate Blue Democratic Coalition have their own problems with the bill, which they say is far too expensive. Facing sharp pushback from both corners of the caucus, House Democratic leaders are considering pulling the plug on the bill to set federal spending limits. They'll need to decide within hours, likely at a leadership meeting Tuesday evening, whether to risk an embarrassing defeat just ahead of the party's annual retreat and its 100-day mark in the majority. The showdown between progressives and fiscal hawks should be the first major policy clash of the new majority, forcing Democrat leaders to decide which flank of their party to squeeze for votes to carry the bill across the line. Senior Democratic aides were insistent they could secure the votes if they need, but Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer have so far refrained from twisting arms. Quote, "There are all kinds of things we have not asked for, because given divided government, it's going to be very difficult. This is not a hard ask," Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, co-chair of this Congressional Progressive Caucus, said of the group's push to increase domestic spending. Quote, "We've got to have something here if we're expected to try to vote for a defense number that is so ridiculously high, while at the same time we have the kind of inequality that we have in the country," Jayapal said. Democrats left a closed-door Tuesday morning with doubts that the bill, which is the launch point for this year's battle over budget caps, could pass Wednesday when it's slated to hit the floor. Quote, "Any caucus could bring down any bill, and we have to figure out whether we're going to be able to govern or not, and this is the first test of it," House Budget Committee Chairman John Yarmuth told reporters. Quote, "I think it's going to be harmful if we're unable to do this. It minimizes our leverage in negotiations with Senate and the White House." I think it would be harmful if what the Democrats currently want to do, which is increase the defense budget, this immoral, insane, it's at $715 billion now. Trump wants to go to $750 billion. The Democrats' counter is going to be like $730 million. Billion. $730 billion is the Democrats' counter. Meanwhile, half the country living paycheck to paycheck. Majority of the country can't afford a $400 emergency. As I've seen and we've shown you, homelessness is rampant around this country. There's an affordable housing crisis in this country. You have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, the Waltons, Bill Gates, and the rest of the elite aristocracy just continuing to rob us blind. And the Democratic Party's fiscal hawks, yeah, you're so hawkish, just, giving blank checks endlessly to war. By the way, I'm watching JFK, Oliver Stone's version right now. And I'm a hypocrite because I'm watching it on Amazon Prime. I'm fully able to call myself a hypocrite when I'm being one. So I am watching it on Amazon Prime. That's the only place I found it. So, yeah. So I don't want to hear that these Democrats, it's the progressives and these, insane spenders versus the fiscal hawks. These aren't fiscal hawks. They're fiscal hawks when it comes to things that will help the people they're voted to represent. When it's things that their donors like and their donors want, we could spend on that. This is all a ruse. It's all a heist. And Nancy Pelosi, in one breath, we're progressive. We're fighting for health care. AKA, we're fighting for a Republican health care plan that really, fluffs the insurance companies' pillows, but still keeps people either underinsured or they can't use it or bankrupted by the co-pays, deductibles, this and that. Yeah, but we're the fiscal hawks. And I think people are starting to wise up to this. And I was just, me and Jimmy and others were just really hit over the head by the Nancy Pelosi and the Hillbots in 2016. You and your purity test, you guys who If Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, if they don't do exactly what you want, you take your ball and go home. Well, I think we're being proven right, because even as the country is telling Nancy Pelosi it is more progressive, the country is telling Nancy Pelosi, not just Democrats, but Republicans. A lot of these issues, Republicans want Medicare for all. It's Republicans want an increase in the minimum wage. Republicans want increasing of taxes on the wealthy. So let's stop pretending Nancy Pelosi is a Democrat. She's not by an old school FDR measurement, a Democrat. She's a Republican. She might be a socially conscious Republican, but she's still a Republican. And this is the problem. You cannot defeat extreme conservatism with country club republicanism. You can't do it. So yes, the Steve Kings of the world and the Ted Cruzes of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world and the Mike Pences of the world are what we as progressives want to defeat. But how do you do that if you're doing it like with a nicer dressed version of that? So I hope this progressive caucus does not give an inch to Nancy Pelosi. They should be demanding that defense budget not increases, but decreases. And they need to stop accepting the narrative and the terms of the discussion that means, you're unpatriotic or you're putting the country at risk. No. We've already put the country at risk by making our priorities to grease the wheels of the generals and the war hawks that never ever have to shrink their budgets. Hell, they can't even pass an audit, and they're not forced to pass an audit. The audit of the Pentagon was a joke, and I encourage you to read Matt Taibbi on Rolling Stone about that. It was a complete joke. They failed, and they will never pass as currently constituted. And every other department needs to pass an audit but the Pentagon. And this is why Tulsi Gabbard's candidacy is super important. That's why. We need to change the discussion. And I think Bernie Sanders has been changing the discussion in terms of healthcare as a human right, and that's getting more into the mainstream. That healthcare is not a luxury. It's something that everybody should have as a right. Well, we need to start moving into the discussion and the narrative that it is endangering our national security and our national health with this mentality that we just have to give endlessly to the military. We could be safe as a country and have far more military spending than any other country, than the next 10 countries combined, if we have like $300 billion military budget. Maybe even less than that. It's preposterous. And if you speak with veterans who will tell you the truth, they know it's preposterous. But the military budget is not for protection for us. It's for protection for Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman. I always get that wrong. Oh, no, Northrop Grumman. Oh. I digress. And, lastly, water in New Jersey. Once Ty moves out to New York, we're going to be covering this since I would love a cameraman to go there, not far from me. It's a problem that doesn't discriminate. It's been detected all across the state in rural, suburban, and urban areas. And now more than 1.4 million people across the Garden State are getting their drinking water from systems that are dealing with high levels of lead. At least 35 water systems in New Jersey have recently been found to have high lead levels at the tap. New Jersey Advanced Media found after a review of violations issued by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection between January 1st and January 31st, January 1st, 2018 and January 31st, 2019, The affected water systems vary greatly by size, ranging from major systems that serve hundreds of thousands of people in multiple towns to tiny systems that service just dozens of people in a single business. Here, New Jersey water systems with lead level violations between January and January 19. Here you got 18.4 parts per billion. Population served, 792,713. Wow. Population served, 792,713. Areas served, Alpine, Bergenfield, Bogota, Caristad, Cliffside Park, Closter, Creskill, Damaris, Dumont, East Rutherford, Edgewater, Emerson, Englewood Cliffs, Fairview, Fort Lee, Gutenberg, Hackensack, Harrington Park, Harrisbrook Heights, I can't read the rest of these. We'll put the link in the chat. And this is system name, Suez Water, New Jersey, Hackensack. Lead level of most recent violation, 18.4 parts per billion, 15 parts per billion. 15 parts per billion is the EPA's action level. And by the way, that's not even a health level. 15 parts per billion is a level for corrosion control. It's not a public health level. The CDC says the level of acceptable lead in drinking water, 0, especially for children. 0 for children, but it's 0 for everyone, period. Then you have Newark Water Department, lead level of most recent violation, 47.9 parts per billion. Population served, 290,139. Area served, Newark. 47.9, significantly higher than 15 parts per billion. What is being done to deal with the lead? Newark is working on $75 million, 8-year project to replace lead service lines. 8 years. City is also installing new corrosion control treatment of the water. Corrosion control treatment for the water, if you already have lead leaching out, there's no guarantee that you're going to recoat the pipes. That's the point. For corrosion control treatment, it's to make sure that lead doesn't leach into the water. But there's no 100% guarantee if it's old pipes that are already leaching lead. There's no guarantee that new corrosion control will do the trick. Here's another one. Lead level of most recent violation, 17.1 parts per billion. This is at the Trenton Waterworks, serving 225,000 people. What's being done to deal with the lead? They're rolling out a $15 million lead service line replacement project, according to a spokesman, aimed at replacing lines serving 2,600 homes in the system. New corrosion control and water testing equipment is also being installed. And Bloomfield Water Department, 32 parts per billion was the most recent. The high lead levels are a problem, especially for children. Lead exposure is known to affect behavior and intelligence in developing babies, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. There are no safe lead levels, but the federal drinking water standard for the metal is 15 parts per billion. These water systems were issued violations because they had lead levels higher than that standard. When a water system is found to have high lead levels, a number of steps must be taken to bring the system back into compliance with state regulations, according to a New Jersey spokesperson. Those steps include increasing water monitoring and improvements to water treatments in the systems. Hanja said it may take several years for a water system to return to compliance. Several years that children and adults might be drinking lead-contaminated water. So this is New Jersey. Suez, a private water utility that operates water systems across New Jersey, ended up with a lead problem in the Hackensack system due to problematic corrosion control treatment at its Holworth water plant. By the way, that's what happened in Flint. They weren't using corrosion control when they switched to the Flint River, which was known to be a highly polluted water source. They weren't using it at all, which is illegal. By law, water systems have to use water corrosion control. Problematic corrosion control treatment makes it more likely that the water will erode lead pipes and send the toxic metal out of the tap. Residents and businesses in the areas served could be affected if there are lead pipes leading to their properties. Last week, Suez announced that it would spend $15 million this year to replace 50,000 feet of lead pipes in its Hackensack system. Customers served by utility-owned service lines and goosenecks in the Hackensack system can have Suez test their water for free. Well, who's giving these people free bottled water? That's what I want to know. 3 other Suez systems, the Vernon Valley and Lake Glenwood systems that serve parts of Vernon Township in Sussex County, and the Old Milford Estates system serving part of West Milford in Passaic County, all receive violations for higher lead levels. The Lake Glenwood and Old Milford Estates systems were both acquired by Suez in December, and their lead problems predate the utility's ownership, according to Suez. Quote, "These are our first experiences in New Jersey with this issue," Vassal said, "of the lead problems. It's our goal to work aggressively to bring these systems into compliance as quickly as possible. Other large systems that provide drinking water to multiple municipalities made up a major chunk of the affected population. Places like Newark, Trenton, and Bordentown have long-running lead problems, and each is taking steps towards the solution." As I say in Flint, as I say in other places, don't matter if you live in New Jersey, folks, the lead crisis, especially in the water, is everywhere. It's not me fear-mongering. I see it wherever I go. If you just Google lead and water, if you do it every day, you'll find a new place that there's lead contamination. The media doesn't cover it. The politicians don't really talk about it. I mean, I've heard Bernie Sanders talk about it here and there. I've heard Tulsi Gabbard talk about it here and there. But I don't see anyone treating this as an urgent crisis. And by the way, Cory Booker is a senator from New Jersey. You hear him talking about this? I mean, I just read you multiple water systems in New Jersey that serve hundreds of thousands of people each. So you're talking millions of residents have high lead levels. Why isn't this an emergency? I don't hear anybody talking about this. And whether Tide's here or not, I'm going to have to go down there myself. I'll just, figure out a way to do it myself and interview people, because this is out of control. And by the way, New Jersey is one of the most expensive places to live in the country. It's got high property taxes and other taxes. And for that, they're drinking lead. And this is not to mention, by the way, why is it, they talk like, oh, yeah, we have time. So, 8 years, we're working on our plan to replace service lines in 8 years. Oh, my God. Can you imagine if there were problematic service lines or pipes underneath, I don't know, in the Clintons' town where they live, or where President Obama lives, or where George W. Bush lives, or where the CEO of ExxonMobil lives, or where, defense contractors live. Those pipes would be changed in 8 days. But one of these plans to fix it, 8 years. This is why status quo exists for stories like this, because this is an emergency. Children, it's not like are potentially drinking lead. They're drinking lead in Newark, Hackensack, and other areas of New Jersey. And by the way, Suez is a private water company. And I could do a 3-hour live stream on them because they are extremely predatory. Just here, lead and water. Want Suez to replace your home's lead water line? It may cost you $1,000 and higher rates. While Suez is set to begin a $15 million project to replace its company-owned lead pipes next week. Beginning in Hackensack, the water company will not touch lead lines on private property, a responsibility that generally falls with homeowners. That could soon change. Suez is seeking state approval to charge customers $1,000 if they allow the company to remove their residential lead lines as part of a 2-year pilot program, according to a company filing with the Board of Public Utilities. The $1,000 is considered a discounted price for a project that, if handled by private contractors hired by homeowners, would cost them an estimated $3,000 to $8,000, according to the company. Suez would make up the difference in price with a rate hike on all of its customers in its Bergen and Hudson County market. Oh, so you're giving us a discount but increasing our rates. Okay. Not every customer can afford to do this on their own, so that's why we hope to offer this program, said a Suez spokesperson. We would pass this along to all rate payers because it's an important public health issue. Suez is offering it to anyone in their service area who has a lead service line. But the work has to be done in conjunction with Suez's work in removing their own lead service lines. They are targeting 16 towns this year to do that work. The $1,000 could be paid off in one lump sum or over a year via a customer's utility bill, according to the filing. Well, first of all, one of the problems with this discussion, number one, it's not a sexy discussion, so they're not talking about it on CNN, MSNBC, in the New York Times, or anywhere really. And remember, if you have not pressed the like button on this stream, smash the like button. It's right under my face. If you like me and Status Quo, press that like button. Even if you don't, fake it. Like. So, it's not just lead service lines that are the problem. So service lines are the lines that come from the curb of your home where you live, the curb, to the valve, to the valve, in your house, and then you have your interior plumbing that goes to your sink or your sinks. So the service lines, yeah, they could be replacing those, but what if you have corrosion on your interior plumbing? That's the homeowner's responsibility? Why is it the homeowner's responsibility? You didn't go in and corrode those pipes. Are you supposed to change your interior plumbing when most people cannot afford a $400 emergency in this country? Are you supposed to pay thousands of dollars to replace your interior plumbing when most people are living paycheck to paycheck? Suez talks like $1,000 to replace your service lines is somehow like affordable. That's not affordable for most people who are just barely making it. Can you, if you watching right now, if you got the discount to pay $1,000 to replace your service lines in your home, whether you're in New Jersey or anywhere else, is that something you're going to be able to jump on right now? Exactly. But this is the problem. Because, by the way, what you're going to see in our documentary, The Flushing Flint, which comes out April 23rd, I'm going to keep repeating it, become a Status Quo member, statusquo.com/join, to get it before April 23rd and to get it free. It's going to be free and early release for Flint residents, too. What you're going to see is you got state environmental agencies either asleep at the switch or intentionally manipulating the data so they don't have to do anything. So they don't have to change the pipes. So they don't have to do further testing. So they don't have to actually spend money towards keeping their residents safe. You also have the EPA looking the other way, which the EPA is currently looking the other way on what we found. So this is a major crisis in the United Corporations of America. It is a disgrace that it doesn't get more media coverage. When it does get media coverage, it's essentially media outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, just uncritically regurgitating what state agencies and what the EPA tell them. But a lot of these agencies rig the testing to get lower numbers, intentionally endangering children's lives. But traditionally, this was done more in poorer communities, black, brown, indigenous. But now the problem's coming where you live. If you're white, if you're middle class, unfortunately, pipes don't really have a color they prefer. So yeah, in wealthier neighborhoods, there's probably newer homes with fresher infrastructure that's newer. But even in old middle class, still middle class, whatever's left of it, even in middle class homes, some of your homes are 40, 50 years old. In Flint, there's homes that are 80, 90 years old. That plumbing that the water's coming through, God knows what it's leaching beyond lead. And if you followed my Flint reporting, if you follow Erin Brockovich, if you follow other water experts, it's not just lead. You got bacteria issues, PFAS, which is a cancer-causing chemical that comes about during the manufacturing of Teflon. You now have problems with chromium, arsenic. I mean, I could go on and on. You also have lead in the ground soil, where in a lot of communities, East Chicago, Flint, and other places. So this is a major problem. We'll continue covering it. We'll continue covering it only as far as you guys take us. Hint, hint. Statuscoup.com/join. As I record, we're 17 members away from 300. Are there 17 souls watching right now that believe in independent journalism, that believe in status quo, and that don't want to just talk about a media revolution and have a bumper sticker, but actually create one? Because I'm ready to do it. I just need you to make it happen. Sometimes you need a little help to get to the river. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but I'm sticking with it. We'll get the water. We'll get the water, but we need help getting to the river right now. It's a terrible analogy, but at least I tried. That's it, folks. I'm off to physical therapy. Thank you for supporting us. Statuscoup.com/join. Remember, we are actively fundraising for this Flint trip. We are now just $886 away. Every amount counts, whether it's $5, $50, and more. To get us there, Jen was kind enough to, just give you the transparent truth. These are the costs associated with this trip. We might have some other costs that pop up because we are actively in talks right now to premiere the documentary at a local church, so Flint residents could watch it there. So we might have some costs pop up with that, but we'll see what happens. And that's it. So here's the link. Jen, we'll put it in the live stream one more time. I will see you tomorrow. Remember, when you go to Status Quo's YouTube page and you watch our shorter clips, because we cut up these live streams into shorter clips, make sure you press the like button then too. Every like helps. This is the society we live on, that I need to depend on likes for YouTube to actually show our content. Thank you for watching. Most people are not lacking compassion. Most people have no idea what is going on in this country /corporation. Peace.